rebel, poet, lout, Lizard King, dead at 27. During Jim Morrison's short and alcohol-fueled time on this mortal plane, the Doors frontman penned a string of iconic songs, mesmerized audiences, and thrust himself into the pantheon of rock and roll legends. Morrison is also the first rock artist to be arrested on stage. The bizarre episode would lead to a famous mugshot and to the ominous Morrison lyric, "Blood in the streets in the town of New Haven." Welcome to Wicked, Connecticut. 1967 was the year Jim Morrison and the Doors became bona fide superstars. The Los Angeles foursome's first single, "Light My Fire," was a hit that summer, and by the fall, the group had 2 albums in the top 5. In the winter of '67, with the wind at their back, the Doors arrived in Connecticut for a sold-out show at the New Haven Arena, a small, no-frills venue which, nonetheless, pulled in many iconic acts, including the Rolling Stones, Cream, Bob Dylan, and the Supremes. Prior to the Doors' now infamous December 9th, 1967 New Haven Arena performance, guitarist Robbie Krieger said he and Morrison enjoyed a quiet dinner out with their dates. Krieger said Morrison was drinking during the meal, but had it under control. And as showtime neared, Morrison continued to hold his liquor just fine. It appeared that the Doors, perhaps the hottest band in the world at that moment, were primed to have a memorable show in New Haven. But it was not to be. While reports of what went down backstage on December 9th, 1967 vary, the broad strokes are as follows. A police officer on patrol inside New Haven Arena told a young guy and girl he encountered making out in a dressing room shower to move along. When the defiant, long-haired male refused, the officer blasted him with mace. The New Haven cop would soon discover that the young man he confronted in the shower was, of course, Jim Morrison, who had yet to perform that evening, and the singer, with many drinks in his system, eyes burning from the blast of chemical spray, was not happy. When the Doors took the stage at New Haven Arena soon after, Morrison was eager to tell the crowd of 2,000 all about the backstage incident. Halfway through the Doors' first set, Morrison shared a story about a little blue pig, a little blue man in a little blue hat. Morrison added, and then he reached round behind him and he brought out this little can of something, and then he sprayed it in my eyes. I was blinded for about 30 minutes. Continuing his rant, Morrison then referred to the local police force as New Haven Pigs, which proved to be the last straw for the cops on duty. The house lights clicked on, and Morrison was arrested right there on stage. With the concert cut short, and the star of the show, the Lizard King, hauled away, a melee ensued inside New Haven Arena, resulting in 13 people being arrested. Charged with inciting a riot, indecency, and public obscenity, Jim Morrison was taken to the New Haven police station, where he paid a $25 fine and was released. Charges against Morrison would be dropped due to a lack of evidence, but the mugshot of the singer with the placard, Police Department, New Haven, Connecticut, 23750, never went away. The image of the rock and roll rebel, stone-faced, has graced many a t-shirt and college dorm room wall. The Doors would immortalize their December 9th, 1967 Connecticut concert in the song Peace Frog. Released in 1970, the tune includes the lines, "Blood in the streets in the town of New Haven, blood stains the roofs and the palm trees of Venice, blood in my love in the terrible summer bloody red sun of fantastic LA." On July 3, 1971, Jim Morrison died unexpectedly in Paris at the age of 27. 3 years later, New Haven Arena, site of perhaps Morrison's most talked-about performance, was demolished. The site where the theater once stood is now the headquarters of the New Haven Division of the FBI. Now that is a twist Jim Morrison, puckish character that he was, would have to tip his glass to. In Connecticut, it's not unusual to run into people of a certain age who claim to have attended the December 9th, 1967 Doors concert at New Haven Arena. For music fans, it's a badge of honor, kind of like saying you were at Woodstock. A guy named Bob Haggerty said he was arrested after the show outside the police precinct where Morrison was being booked. Just 16 years old at the time, Haggerty said he was doing nothing wrong when he was ushered into the drunk tank. According to Haggerty, about 20 minutes later, he was joined in the cell by none other than Jim Morrison. "It was the greatest fanboy moment of my life," Haggerty told a reporter half a century after the purported encounter. "I was awestruck and had difficulty speaking. I was not impaired at all, so I remember it clearly. Morrison was clearly hammered, probably on alcohol," Haggerty added, "but he spoke fairly coherently and with clarity in that sort of 1960s hip speak." Before long, officers returned to the drunk tank, and Morrison was on his way. Soon after, Haggerty headed out into the cold New Haven night as well. And man, did he ever have a story to tell his buddies. I would like to give a shout out to the many journalists whose work I poured over in order to piece together this narrative. Much obliged. Thanks for listening to Wicked Connecticut. Feel free to email me. The address is in the show notes. Until next time, I'm your host, John Haynes.